views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we'll learn how one company is connecting restaurants and grocery stores with customers to make sure that food doesn't go to waste. And then we'll discuss the innovative solutions dealing with the high rates of unemployment right here in the Bronx. We'll tell you how one organization is fighting for resources. And then we'll also introduce you to a not-for-profit that's addressing the challenges of an aging population. And then finally, we'll discuss an organization raising awareness and educating the community on the harmful effects of pornography. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren Jaime, and welcome to Open. You are watching the show that is opening the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. Today is Wednesday, February 24th. And yes, Open opens us up to the Bronx and New York City. We also want to welcome our viewers who are watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on the MNN channel. We also encourage you to stay connected to us on our social media platforms at BronxNet TV, and then also our website at www.bronxnet.org. Well, a whole lot has been going on through the course of the past week here in the Bronx and New York City. Can't take you through everything, but we can share a few things with you with our Bronx updates. We start off today with coronavirus news. Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing backlash for his handling of nursing homes throughout the coronavirus pandemic. During his press conference on February 19th, the governor and health commissioner, Dr. Howard Zucker, are defending their decision to create more hospital space early in the pandemic by putting still recovering COVID-19 patients back into nursing homes, which critics say cause nursing home outbreaks. The governor said it was a mistake to, quote, create a void by not producing public information fast enough, end quote, in regards to the nursing home deaths. Governor Cuomo also stated, no one has a right to spread lies or misinformation that causes pain to the families. It's a lie to say that any numbers were inaccurate. Total deaths were always reported in nursing homes and hospitals. In other news, Governor Cuomo also announced indoor dining in New York City will expand to 35% capacity on February 26th. The capacity level is currently at 25%, which is a number that many restaurateurs are now lamenting because it's lower than surrounding communities. The governor announced it and said that New York City's indoor dining capacity will remain below the 50% level across the state because of ongoing concerns that the coronavirus can spread easier here in New York City. Well, that's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We encourage you to stay with us. We got a great show. Open will continue with more coming up after this.
There's a special election on Tuesday, March 23rd, and if you live in any of these neighborhoods, you'll want to pay attention. Your councilman, Andrew Cohen, is now a judge, and there are 5 candidates looking to replace him. Whoever wins on March 23rd will join New York City's primary lawmaking body, making decisions that affect you, your family, your home, and even your workplace. Starting in 2021, New York City will use ranked choice voting in primary and special elections for local offices. Ranked choice voting simply means that voters can rank up to 5 candidates in order of preference, instead of casting a vote for just one. You can still vote for just one candidate if you prefer. You can learn everything there is to know about the District 11 City Council race and the candidates by visiting ballotpedia.org and riverdalepress.com. Stay informed, and most importantly, make sure you mail your absentee ballot the day before Election Day on March 23rd, or safely head out to the polls to have your vote count and your voice heard.
And welcome back to Open. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to high rates of unemployment in locations across the nation, including right here in the borough of the Bronx. At the start of April 30th of last year, more than 30 million Americans filed for unemployment. The Thinkubator shared a recent report focusing on powering the voice of Bronx youth through workforce development training and providing access to educational and career pathways. The report provides insight on innovative solutions to deal with high rates of unemployment in locations here in boroughs like the Bronx. Joining us to share more and provide further insight is the director of the think tank at the Thinkubator, Dr. Lessie Branch, and then also president and CEO of the Thinkubator, Dr. Edward Summers. And welcome both back to Open.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Daren.
Thanks. And so as we look at these numbers, obviously the numbers continue to be startling in the area of unemployment. Let's go into your report and what are you trying to move from that report, given the fact that it is telling when it comes to unemployment?
What we are trying to do is get electeds and others to focus on organizations such as the Thinkubator and empower them, give them the resources so they can work with youth and displaced and disaffected employees so they can get back to the workforce. In many instances, folks in communities like the Bronx are underemployed or unemployed. And so it really just has a ripple effect in how they are able to manage the day to day. And so it's resources number one, but policy number two to help these unemployed and underemployed individuals try to get back to some semblance of normalcy around employment.
Dr. Summers, we talked about previously some of the strategies that were being implemented. Talk to us a little bit about the workforce development strategies.
Sure. So this report calls for us to think big and go big. It goes back to FDR and the New Deal in terms of thinking about like infrastructure projects. There is so much to be done throughout the Bronx, throughout New York City. And we need to use this time to think creatively and innovative about how we get people back to work. So one of the things that the report suggests is broadband for all. We know that during this time of COVID, where everyone's working from home, young people have to actually school at home as well, broadband has been a major challenge, and it's unveiled the digital equity challenge in boroughs like the Bronx and communities like Mott Haven and the Bronx versus other communities. So thinking about how do we put an infrastructure down to make sure that everyone has access to broadband. That's a major project. That is a major undertaking that can train and tool so many people, both young and older, who can actually go get back to work. So that's one idea. Another idea is to really think about the times that we're in. Thinking about the fact that many of the Bronx employees were in the Bronx was called the essential borough, right? So that means that many people had to go to work still, while lots of people in the knowledge economy was able to stay home and work from home largely. So this is a great opportunity, a great time to really think about how are we actually retooling individuals? How do we provide them with the training necessary to have jobs that, of course, you need the city to run, so you need people in essential services, but not every employee in the Bronx should be an essential employee, right? We should have a diversity of careers and occupations that people are located in. So how do we think about training? How do our government thinks about funding organizations like the Thinkubator and the Knowledge House and Wall Street Bound? These are really important organizations that are training our youth to think about different types of careers in tech, careers in finance, careers in project management. So it's really about how do we think about and take this time to invest in local workforce development organizations to truly retool our young people and our not so young people for an economy that we know that's largely digital, that's largely dependent on technology, and that's largely dependent on the knowledge sector. Of course, this is not to say that we don't need to train people to be mechanics and engineer. Like, I think that's all critical, but making sure that communities like the Bronx have a diversity of careers and occupations that people are in versus being labeled the essential borough, which was really important during the height of COVID, of course. They had to keep the city running. But it underpinned the types of jobs and the types of occupations that Bronx residents are in versus other people in. And typically, not always, but typically a lot of the jobs and occupations that are located in the Bronx are associated with low wage earners. And so we want to change that dynamic, right? We want people who can keep the city running, as I said, but then also be represented in the knowledge economy. And that's what organizations like the Thinkubator is doing. We have our career connected programs that are focused on making sure that we expose, train, and connect young people to career opportunities, opportunities that allows for room for growth and development, whether it's professional development or education development. And that's what we need to be doing. So our government needs to be focused on thinking about this recovery, thinking about major, large infrastructure projects like broadband, but then also investing in organizations who are doing good work to retool our young people and our not so young people for this economy that exists.
I like the way you say not so young people. Dr. Lessie, let me bring you back in and talk a little bit more about not-for-profits, because not-for-profit sector is huge here in the borough of the Bronx and across New York City. I know that one of the recommendations that was spoken of was really increasing some of the resource capacity for these not-for-profits. Can you share a little bit more about what that looks like?
So it looks, to be honest, it looks like just putting dollars, putting resources into these nonprofits. And just to, double back to something that Dr. Summers said, in 1971, an economist by the name of Barbara Bergman developed a model called Occupational Crowding Model. And it posited that Black men, and what we are seeing today, it's not just Black men, but Black men in her model are crowded into low wage occupations and crowded out of high wage occupations due to elements of discrimination. And so what it means is putting money where your mouth is, right? Organizations and nonprofits such as the Thinkubator, we're doing good work, but we have little to no resources. And we are going to do the work regardless of whether we have the resources. But if the talk is about equity and equality and opportunity, then that means the resources have to follow. And there is this book called The Great Risk Shift, I believe it is. And, there has been a shift in responsibility away from the collective to the individual or the persons who are least able to shoulder the burdens. And so, it's time for government, for funders, for others to really step up and, walk the walk and represent that they are committed to the narratives that they are putting forth.
Yeah. So where do we see things going from here, Dr. Summers?
Sure. So we are very much focused on making sure that we talk with and align with other groups who feel the way that we feel in terms of bold, innovative policies to get people back to work. And our approach is to really talk as much as possible to funders, to the government, and to anyone who will, quite frankly, listen about our thoughts and our ideas of how to get folks back to work. In particular, we're a youth-driven organization, so our focus is on how do we get young people connected to opportunities that will put them on a pathway to earning a living wage and above. We want young people to really earn a living wage and above. And so that's our approach, is really just talking as much as possible, talking to folks like yourself and others who will listen and who will spread the word about the importance of thinking big and bold about what we need to do to get this economy jump back started. We know that the Bronx has disproportionately been hit by COVID-19 on the community. At the height of COVID, we were about at 25% unemployment. So we really need to make sure that we're thinking big, boldly, inclusive, and just and equitable to get folks back to work. And this is an election year for the BP, the borough president, and there's some other important elections this year as well, that we need to be talking to folks and make sure that they're thinking about the interests of our community, our young people, and our not so young people.
Yeah. Dr. Branch, before we get out of here, let me ask the question about the young people that Dr. Summers is referring to and navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. Now that we were in it for almost a year, how would you assess the young people that you've dealt with and their resilience during this pandemic?
So, you know, the young people are absolutely resilient. They are responsible. The young people in the Bronx want to get their schooling. They want to work. In a lot of cases, they more than want to work, they have to, because the primary source of income in their family has either gotten sick from COVID, has died from it, or has become unemployed. And so the young people in our community are mature above their years. The level of responsibility that they take on is just commendable. And so I would love to see the narrative change around young people from the Bronx, that they are responsible, they are hardworking, they are caring and thoughtful, and they are civic and community minded.
Dr. Leslie Branch, we'll leave it there. And Dr. Summers, thank you so much for being with us here on Open. And once again, glad to have you.
Thanks again, Daren.
All righty. Well, I want to let you know, if you want more information, please go visit their website at thinkubator.org and follow them on social media at the Thinkubator. Well, we encourage you, don't go anywhere. We do have more Open coming up. We'll be right back right after this.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back to the show. 40% of edible food in the U.S. is wasted, or the equivalent of a full mid-size SUV every second. This contributes to 8% of all global greenhouse gas emissions and $1.2 trillion worth of food. Too Good To Go is a company that's inspiring and empowering individuals to take action against food waste. The company connects restaurants and grocery stores with customers, making sure food does not go to waste. And once registered, Users can choose from their favorite local spots to pick up meals like sushi or ingredients like apples and avocados for a third of the normal price. Joining us to share more about that is the details is the East Coast Director at Too Good To Go, Gaeleen Quinn, and the owner of Glenroy's Lunch and Tavern and Hudson Smokehouse, Kenneth McPartlan. And thank you so much for being with us here on Open. Let me ask.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, glad to have you. Let me ask this. When we talk about food insecurity, we know that that's very huge here across New York City. But even in what you do, you guys are able to really bridge that gap for a lot of people in the area of food insecurity. And so I'll start off first with you, Gaeleen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where you are, but in New York only, we produce around 1.3 million tons of food waste every year. That's enough to actually fill up the Empire State Building 32 times. So, of course, the consequences are huge, not only in terms of climate change and the connection between food waste and greenhouse gas production, but also in terms of the financial losses that we have as a city, as a country, as the whole world, and of course the amount of hunger that goes unsolved, even if there are, of course, many rescuing organizations that are working towards it. There's just too much of it.
Yeah. And so Kenneth, talk to us about the work that you're doing in terms of Too Good To Go. Obviously providing that helping hand in a time like this.
It's actually an excellent program. I don't know who came up with it, but it's a great program. There in industry, if you're doing things properly, you really shouldn't have much waste, but it happens from time to time, and a great way to help out the community, help people that are in need of food, that don't have, enough money for, a full meal or the full price. And then it helps the restaurant, it helps the community, everybody. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. During the pandemic, a lot of places have struggled. Talking to restaurant owners and hearing their story, they're saying, listen, we almost had to close our doors. And so for people who almost had to close their doors, still to be able to give back is a huge thing, Gaeleen.
Small restaurants are benefiting from the program, not only because they can actually have some new consumers coming in their door, but also they can work with the community to make sure that not even a piece of bread goes to waste.
Kenneth, talk to us about, where you are and how you participate and what you've seen happen.
Well, I mean, I'm at the Glenroy Lunch and Tavern. It's on 149th Street in the Grand Concourse. I've been there. My great-granddad opened that place in 1932. So we will survive this pandemic no matter how long it lasted. But Hudson Smokehouse, I opened March 9th of this past year. And I mean, we wouldn't have made it without the World Central Kitchen. And it was them, Farmer Rich and Hannah, that connected us with Too Good To Go. And everything's been going great.
So Gaeleen, how do people get connected to Too Good To Go if they're a restaurant or a business that wants to be able to tap in?
Well, they can visit our website, which is toogoodtogo.com. They can also download our app so that they can understand how the program works and how we connect consumers with restaurants, bakeries, cafes, supermarkets that have surplus food at the end of the day, so that really nothing goes to waste and we can take advantage of every single item they have available.
Yeah. And what about for the average person? Obviously, there is food that's wasted within our very own homes. What can we do on our side as just regular homeowners and people who live within their own homes? What can we do in terms of reducing that?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we do, as you said at the beginning, is really to inspire and empower everyone to fight food waste. So I would recommend to actually follow us on Instagram at toogoodtogo.usa, and we can show you many different alternative strategies on how to make sure that you use everything that you have in your kitchen. Small little things like making a list before you go grocery shopping, and a lot of strategies that you can start following on a daily basis to decrease your amount of waste.
Kenneth, you also shared a little bit about saying that, hey, listen, if this didn't happen, we might be out of business here. Talk to us a little bit about what the struggle has been like for you in the pandemic with Smokehouse.
It's been very, very difficult. Obviously, you need people inside. You need people to sit, relax, buy a drink. That's where the good money is anyway. And no indoor dining. Have 25% now. It doesn't help. There's still 100% of the insurance. There's 100% of cost, 100% of rent, 25% doesn't help. So it's been unbelievable just trying to navigate through this time, and all sorts of little things that we've done. Just try to help through Uber Eats or Grubhub or Too Good To Go, and just do the best that you can and just try to get through it. And we're all in this together. We're not the only place, and we're not the only people. Every single in this city is fighting through this. So we just got to get through it, and we will.
So talk to me a little bit more, Gaeleen, as we get ready to bring the segment towards a close. But talk to us a little bit more about future plans and what do you see happening in the near future?
Well, I'm really excited to tell you that New Yorkers have embraced the concept of Too Good To Go. And we have been in business only for 4 months, but we already have 1,000 stores in the 5 boroughs. So we're really, really excited to show this success, this early success. And we have around 350,000 registered consumers. So this is kind of like to give you an idea of what the beginning of the adventure of fighting food waste looks like. But we're definitely growing, not only within the 5 boroughs, but also in different areas like Philly and DC. We're soon going to be going to the West Coast as well. So, the amount of food waste is massive, and the ways of fighting it are limited. So we are one of the solutions that are out there, and we are definitely going to do our best to make it as available as possible to everyone around the country.
Well, Gaeleen and Kenneth, thank you so much for being with us here on Open. And as we said, continue the great work that you guys are doing. Kenneth, best wishes to you, my brother. And I certainly pray that as restaurants continue to navigate this pandemic, that you guys will see that we're a whole lot closer on the other side and we'll get through this. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, now for more information, you can visit their website at toogoodtogo.com. Also, you can follow them on Instagram at toogoodtogo.usa. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. Open will continue coming up right after this. Back to the show. Fight the New Drug is a non-religious and non-legislative organization that's existing to provide individuals the opportunity to make an informed decision regarding pornography by raising awareness on its harmful effects using only science, facts, and personal accounts. The organization believes in using education and awareness as tools to empower individuals to make their own educated decisions about pornography. They carefully review, summarize, and present peer-reviewed research about pornography in a clear and concise way that's engaging and easy for fighters to understand. Here now to share more with us is the presenter and podcast developer of Fight the New Drug, Garrett Jonsson. And thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks, Daren. We're grateful for the opportunity to be here with you.
So for somebody who's just watching and saying, listen, this is an organization that's dealing with pornography, fighting against pornography, talk to us about your goal and your mission.
Yeah, and the mission is to educate individuals using science, facts, and personal accounts. The goal is to educate, so people can make an educated decision. We think that we found that pornography is something that not a lot of people are talking about, and if they are, it's not in the most healthy of ways oftentimes. And so our goal, amongst other organizations out there, we're just one of them, our goal is to spread awareness so that people can, once again, make an educated decision. An important aspect of what we do is, and included in our mission statement, is that we are non-religious and non-legislative, meaning that we do sticks to science, facts, and personal accounts.
So we understand that it affects the brain. We understand that there's patterns and relationships. So what can we learn from this?
You know, when it comes to the areas that we talk about it affects the individual, the relationships, and society. The way we break it down is brain, heart, world. And so the science, research, and personal accounts are showing that it does affect those areas. You can kind of dive into those areas individually, into the brain, how it affects individuals, relationships, and society. I guess one point, starting off with the brain, is there's a very famous guy named Dr. Nicholas Timbergen, and one of the things that he found was this term called supernormal stimulus, which means that he won the Nobel Prize in the 1970s, by the way. And this term supernormal stimulus, it means that it activates the brain at a greater level. It activates the reward pathway at a greater level. And then oftentimes we will turn to that thing, even though it's fake or unhealthy, we can turn to it because it spikes the reward pathway in a supernormal way. And so a lot of researchers are saying that pornography, today's mainstream internet porn, is a supernormal stimulus.
And also, I know that there's a correlation between pornography and violence. What are we learning about pornography and violence?
Yeah, there's a lot of research about mainstream internet porn being violent and aggressive, and there is correlation there between consuming and then what behaviors people are engaging in. And just recently, one of the largest porn companies has made some pretty big changes out there because of violence and aggressive stuff and non-consensual sexual explicit materials, as well as child sexual abuse materials on their website. And so just that recent example is one example showing that it is problematic.
And for many, they deal with the issue of pornography as a person that now becomes addicted. And we know that there's addiction issues that come with pornography. What are we hearing? Is it getting any better? And what can you tell us about pornography and addiction?
Yeah, there's a really well-known organization called the Mayo Clinic. And when it comes to compulsive behavior around pornography, risk factors. And those two risk factors for developing compulsive sexual behavior or unwanted porn use are privacy and ease of access. And so if you look at today's mainstream internet porn, the mainstream internet porn today provides those two things, privacy and ease of access. And then you also look at studies that show that the average age of first-time exposure is between like 9 years old and 11 years old. And, you know, at that age, kids' minds, they're developing, and it's easier to manipulate those brains at a younger age. And so I think there is a higher risk today to develop a compulsive sexual behavior around this because of the circumstances.
You got a podcast called Consider Before Consuming. And talk to us about your podcast and the hope that you're doing, or the hope of the podcast in reaching the public.
Yeah, so that's just one of our resources. The podcast, we meet with people with personal accounts and experts and influencers and activists from around the world. The goal is to sit down with them and learn from them. The name of the podcast, as you mentioned, is Consider Before Consuming. And so, our goal is to put forth information that people consume so that they can make, once again, an educated decision regarding pornography. We've been able to meet with a lot of people from around the world, and we feel fortunate for those people sharing their knowledge and personal accounts.
So people want to catch the podcast. What I was going to ask is, how do they go about catching it?
Yeah, so you can find the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're on Spotify and Apple and all those other places. And so yeah, you can catch it there.
Awesome. And so finally, before we close out the segment, talk to us about what you're actually hoping to do through your work as well as through the podcast.
Yeah, our goal at Fight the New Drug is to fight sexual exploitation and to help people make an educated decision. And so, yeah, we're non-religious and non-legislative. Our goal is to help people understand that there are negative effects to consuming pornography, and it does affect the brain, the heart, and the world. And that's the ultimate goal, just allow people to make that educated decision.
Well, Garrett, I want to thank you so much for being with us here on Open. And as we said, you can catch the podcast, you said, on any regular place where you catch the podcast, Apple and Spotify. You can definitely do that there. And then also want to make sure that you visit their website. And if you can visit their website at fightthenewdrug.org, you can also visit them on social media at Fight the New Drug. And Garrett, thanks again for being with us.
Yeah, Daren, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate you being with us, yes. And so we encourage our viewers, don't go anywhere. We do have more show. Open will continue right after this. Back to the show. For more than 4 decades, DOROT has been an innovative leader in the fields of aging services and volunteerism. The organization serves clients with a diverse range of programs and services, delivering those programs and services through intergenerational connections with volunteers of all ages. Now, DOROT's intergenerational programs offer a glimpse into the world of today's youth and the chance for older adults and volunteers 65 and up to actually share their stories, wisdom, as well as friendship. Here now to tell us a little bit more is the coordinator of youth and family volunteers at DOROT, Quinn Lockwood, and also DOROT senior Antoinette-Marie Williams. And welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So when we talk about aging services, obviously services towards seniors are very important, but share with us a little bit about DOROT and this work.
Sure, absolutely. So We, as you know, are a senior serving organization primarily. We've been around on the Upper West Side since the 1970s. And what I particularly get to touch on in my role is all of our programs that are designed to bring together the older adults of DOROT and our young people. So those are student volunteers, youth volunteers, anywhere from as young as 5 years old up to 18 years old in high school. So we have a variety of programs that run during the school year as well as over the summer. Antoinette knows all about those, and she's with us all the time doing a variety of different things.
And so, Antoinette, talk to us about the work that you do.
Well, I'm involved in quite a few different DOROT programs, particularly the intergenerational programs. I participate in the chess program, which deals with the young people as well as those of us that are over the age of responsibility.
Okay.
And what we do is weekly, we get together and we discuss chess problems, and we also are learning to play chess. Some of us are, and I've been playing chess for quite some years, and knowing that DOROT had a chess program, I decided to join. And it's very rewarding in the sense that we get to communicate with those of us that are elders. So it's across the board win-win for all of us. And I also participate in a one-on-one chess program with an 8th grader once weekly, which is good for me to teach as well as to learn along with her about chess problems, and so that's another communication. I'm also involved in the brain games, the intergenerational brain games program, where we do different problem solving with the elders and the young people, and it's again another win-win across the board. We get to experience different ideas from old school to new school. So I'm enjoying that too. And I think I belong to another program. Quinn, I've forgotten what other program
You do so much with us. You also do intergenerational discussion group.
Oh yes.
That's one of my favorites.
Yes, there's also once a week I talk with a young person who's now in college, her first year of college. And we have conversations once a week, which are very interesting across the board. What she's taking in school, she's taking creative writing, and I have a master's in creative writing. So we have that in common, and we discuss generational things, which we find we have a lot in common in that regard as well too. So all of the programs are really interesting.
And Quinn, when we talk about intergenerational programs, obviously they have a lot of power and a lot of significance. Talk to us about the importance of these, because on the part of those who are past the age of responsibility, as I've heard, when you have somebody that's past the age of responsibility, to talk to somebody who's just becoming responsible, I think there's some power in that.
Absolutely. And I think it's also key, what Antoinette highlighted before, is kind of those things that come to light in terms of commonalities, like, finding those things that spark you and ignite passion. You could be any age and be interested in learning how to solve puzzles and use strategy to get through a challenge. And, it doesn't matter that you are maybe just entering your high school experience and maybe you have a lot of life yet to live and you're connecting with somebody who's lived a lot of life. But those things that bring people together, I think, don't have to be defined by age. And we're really all about kind of breaking down those age barriers, getting people to interact in these spaces where you can have the opportunity to meet somebody who's so much younger or so much older. And unfortunately, I think that's pretty rare in the way that our society is set up these days. You're sort of in your own social circle, you have your peers that you connect with, and maybe you have family connections, but getting the opportunity to really break out of those age restricted circles that we run in, I think is just so cool and can be so transformative.
Well, talk to me about COVID for a second, because it's impacted a lot of people. How's it impacted, if you will, getting together and having those social moments? Has there been any impact?
Absolutely. We at DOROT had transitioned all of our programming that had been in person. Last March, we took everything totally virtual. So that includes opportunities to connect over Zoom, the way that many of us are kind of talking right now. We have telephone programs as well at DOROT for those older adults for whom that technology is not so accessible. And we offer intergenerational means of connection in both those ways now. And I think one thing that I have heard from participants of all ages that I work with is this feeling of isolation and really this hunger for social connections is definitely not limited only to those people we work with who are on the older age of the age spectrum, right? I have so many high school students that write to me and come into my programs and they say, you know, my whole world has been so disrupted. I don't go to school anymore. I'm not really seeing peers, friends, classmates that much. And I haven't had the opportunity to, never mind meet new people. I haven't even had the opportunity to actually sit down and connect with those people that I already knew. So when they hear about something like DOROT, where we're saying, hey, come on and join our discussion group and come on and be part of these arts workshops and book talks, it really has this dual meaning where they're excited to connect with an older generation. And I find like our high school students are just excited to connect, period. They're meeting each other. They're meeting people that are also their own age. And there is such a hunger for that connection right now.
Yeah. Antoinette, what has it meant for you to have this interaction and to have this opportunity to do intergenerational work?
Well, it's really interesting. It's I want to say it's across the board, nationalities, ethnicities. It's really, as New York City is a melting pot, and so is DOROT. It really goes. It's really unlimited, and the people that it reaches, and brings us all together in a unified medium.
Well, let's get this out here so that way if people want to find out more information with regards to connecting with DOROT, how do they go about doing that, Quinn?
Absolutely. So I think, you know, if anybody who is listening to this or watching this and maybe sees themselves or sees someone that they know as a good fit for joining one of our intergenerational programs, either that could mean you are a high school student or you know a high school student who you think would benefit from being part of one of these programs, or maybe you know an older person, you yourself are past that age of responsibility, you want to get involved. A good way to start would be our website. That's DOROT, DOROTUSA.org. And on that site, you'll find different sections depending on who you are and where you see yourself plugging in. So if you're a high school student, you can learn about our internships and how to apply for those right on the website. And if you're an older person, you can also see there's a section that's called Intergenerational Volunteer Opportunities for people 65 plus. And typically the first step to getting involved, if you've never done a DOROT program before, is to come to a volunteer orientation. And you'll find out how to sign up for those on the website as well.
Antoinette and Quinn, thank you so much for being with us, sharing with us a little bit about the great work of DOROT.
Well, thank you for having us.
Certainly.
Have a nice day.
Hey, you too. So we want our viewers to know, listen, if you want more information, we encourage you, do visit their website at DOROTUSA.org. Also follow them on social media at DOROTUSA. We do have more show coming up, so don't go anywhere. We're coming right back right after this.
most at risk for coronavirus. People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people, avoid crowds, stay home if you can, wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
And welcome back to the show. African Americans are an integral part of the American food story. And Black History Month is a perfect time to celebrate Black culinary pioneers, past and present, who make American cuisine what it is. Fresh Direct will be showing its appreciation for its Black-owned vendors and the tasty products they dish out on the online grocer's website, as well as social media channels. Here to share more is the Vice President of Public Affairs at Fresh Direct, Larry Scott Blackmon, and good to have you back, Larry.
Thank you for having me back on, Daren. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you. And as it is Black History Month, we do say that African Americans have made significant contributions all across the world. But when you talk about the restaurant industry, we talk about the food industry, definitely a staple in what we see here in America.
Absolutely. Food and the African American community are synonymous. If you take a look historically in terms of what food has meant to the movement for African American justice, equal rights, just the role that food played when it came to civil disobedience and making sure that the rights for all were equal. Food is at the core of that, and we're happy to be a provider of food that continues to serve those means to individuals that are involved in the fight for justice, or individuals that are just looking to feed their families during this month of love. We're happy to be that choice for them.
So tell me about what Fresh Direct is doing. I mean, you've got the opportunity to really highlight and showcase some people.
Well, let me just say personally, I've been at Fresh Direct now for 6 years, and while February is Black History Month and it is the month of love, I can honestly say, with any bias put aside, that Fresh Direct has really done a phenomenal job all year round with making sure that its offerings represent the local cultures in which they serve, the local neighborhoods that they serve. So during February, that being Black History Month, we are really extreme with over 70 vendors who are minority-owned companies. We have some great spotlights and some great companies like Pipcorn, which is owned by a person of color. We have just so many great things and so much more lined up that I wish I could tell you. But Daren, You're going to be the first because we are negotiating with some entities and some items. There's a wine and spirit company that is phenomenal. That we're looking to launch and highlight, and those conversations happen during Black History Month. There's another one I have on my desk, a great vodka and rum by a local Black-owned business entrepreneur. Fresh Direct is really awesome in that regard, and we couldn't be more proud to be able to work on some of these items during this most historic month.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about it, their contributions that are made, their owners are doing some great work in a variety of different places. But if we're just being honest, when it comes to businesses, and particularly African-American minority businesses, the one thing that seems to lack them is exposure and access to resources.
That is a significant challenge. You've hit the nail on the head. I can't tell you the number of businesses that we've talked to who have the challenge of, trying to have access to additional capital or access to a wider distribution market to lower their prices so that they would be, palatable for even some of our customers. So that is a challenge that we all continue to work on. But, it's about opening the door and providing the opportunity. It's sort of like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, if the company doesn't have the means, do you still give them the opportunity? And what if if the product is not there, does that hurt them? So it's a constant balance in the trade-off and trying to find the right space to make marriages work. But we've been proud that we've had some of those intimate conversations with some Black-owned businesses and continue to try to work to increase the offering.
Yeah. How you guys navigating? I mean, we've been asking people all throughout, now that COVID-19 continues to look pretty much in New York like we're getting a better handle on it. Not to mention the 500,000 people across America that have lost their lives, but we are doing better here in New York. Businesses have really been hard hit. Talk to me about Fresh Direct and how you guys have been pivoting.
We have been operating nonstop. Obviously, we've taken great strides to make sure that our customers are safe, and also that our employees are safe. And we've actually put great steps into place in that regard. So we've pivoted, number one, making sure that safety is the top priority. Number two, ensuring that our food quality and what customers come to expect and love from us remains the same. And as you know, Daren, we've had some significant challenges recently with the weather, right? That's been a significant challenge. So I just heard of a story where one of our delivery workers was driving and moving through the snow and had an issue and literally got out and walked to make sure that the customer received their item on time. So we are nothing without the brilliant, phenomenal team members that we work with. We are extraordinarily, we're one big family, and we are so thankful and appreciative for our employees. We're just as much as thankful for them as we are of our customers. And so we've had challenges, but we have some awesome employees who go the extra mile, and we are extraordinarily thankful of our team.
Yeah. Talk to me about how we can tap in, with your team and all that's going on. How can the public be able to tap in to all the great things that Fresh Direct is doing, particularly as we're talking about Black History Month and these entrepreneurs, and also the month of love?
Well, visit our social media handles. You can certainly do that. You can visit our website. We have so much going on across a number of different fronts. We just launched a new partnership with some nonprofit organizations where you can take your cleaned and used Fresh Direct bags and drop them off to a local community-based organization that's providing food pantry services, and will repurpose those bags for individuals who are in need. So we are extremely excited about that. And that's what the month of love is really about. It's about creativity, it's about passion, it's about food, it's about culture, and it's about recognizing the impact that all of those things have on us as a society. And we're happy to be the company that is a vehicle for change in that regard. So again, visit our social media handles, visit our website, freshdirect.com, and we look forward to continued partnership.
Well, Larry, we want to thank you for the work that you're doing with Fresh Direct. Thank you for Fresh Direct making an impact with boots on the ground in our community, and then also for the great highlight that you're doing through African American History Month. Thanks so much for being with us, brother.
Thank you, Daren, and I wish you a very happy and pleasant Black History Month, my brother.
Larry Scott Blackmon, thank you, my brother, for joining us here on Open. And we want to let you know, unfortunately, we are out of time for this particular show. We want to thank all of our guests, including Larry, for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, don't forget you can catch the recablecast here on Bronx, that's channel 67. If you have Optimum, that's channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. We encourage you to stay connected to us. If you want a brand new, fresh episode of Open, well, guess what? Come back on Friday. My girl, Romina Valentine, will bring you arts, entertainment, and COVID-related information. Until then, I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.